Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Rockman Battle and Fighters for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, brought to us by Capcom. Power and Fighters is a toned down graphically but compilation of Megaman Power Battle 1 and 2 being scaled down for the handheld console. Now, instead of playing through every single route in the game, I'm going to play once as every character, going 2 times through Megaman Power Battle 1 and 2 times through Megaman Power Battle 2, so that you'll get a chance to see all the characters. We're going to start off with Megaman Power Battle 1, or Rockman Power Battle 1, and start off as playing as the man himself, Megaman. I'm going to select the battles against Rockman 1 and 2 bosses, and on the second time around we'll do Rockman 3 through 6. Just like with Power Battle 1, you start off at your select screen, and when you press the button, you'll land on one of the levels and jump into your first battle. For us, it's going to be our fight against Heat Man. In typical Mega Man fashion, you can not only move and jump, you can charge up your blaster in order to hit your opponents, as well as actually slide to try to help you get out of the way. In Power Battle 2, you can actually charge up fully and hold up in order to unleash special attacks with each of the main characters. A lot of the fights in the game will go by relatively quickly, just because they're pretty easy to take out, but defeating each of the robot masters will give you their ability, very similar to what they would give you in their original games. Second up, we're going to battle Woodman, and you can see that the Neo Geo does a good job of recreating the stages and the character sprites overall. It can be a little bit confusing in the game, of course, if you're too far left or right and your opponent is off the screen so you can't quite see them. For Woodman, he has a couple of moves, including, of course, his dance where he'll rain down leaves upon you and then throw his leaf shield at you. He'll also roll into a log and try to come at you that way, but if you do a nice timed charged up shot, you can knock him away as he's charging towards you, and you can also hit him in mid-air. After completing a battle in Power Battle 1, you'll get a little bit of your health back, rack up some score, and then move on to the next fight. In Power Battle 2, you actually get to collect some extra bonus items in between the fights. Iceman is up next from Mega Man 1, one of my favorites of all time, and he presents a pretty cool battle. He'll be moving up and down, throwing his ice shards at you. A lot of times he'll do this from off screen, which can be a little bit difficult, and then time up your hits so that you'll actually be able to land those fully charged up blasts. Of course, you can use their weaknesses against the robot masters, but honestly, full charged up shots with the Mega Buster definitely works better, at least in Mega Man Power Battle 1. They're a little bit more effective in Power Battle 2. Something I definitely found interesting was the dialogue after getting one of the Robot Master's powers is actually in English, though most of the other dialogue you'll see throughout the rest of the game is in native Japanese. Next up is Crash Man, and he has one of the funner fights in this because he gets to do it in the junk level, which has these little openings on the left and right that you actually can go through and then tumble out the top part and time up a nice charged up shot while you're falling out to be able to not only hit Crash Man but also to avoid the little bit of explosion time as one of his crash bombs hits the ground, and after a few moments, of course, it will explode. But going inside of the vents to the left and right, you can sometimes just avoid the explosions if you're not able to kind of get far enough left or right away from them. Cutman is a relatively simple fight. He'll usually jump backwards or forwards and throw his blade off the top of his head like a boomerang, going around in a circle pattern before returning to him. He can fire this while jumping in the air or while he's standing on the ground, and anytime he jumps towards you, you usually have ample opportunity to get another charge shot in order to kind of knock him away from you. The final one of the Robot Masters we're going to be battling here in the Mega Man 1 and 2 set is Dustman. Now, Dustman will jump up in the air, causing an earthquake on the ground sometimes. He'll also have giant rocks come down from above, and he'll break them, causing shards of the rock to fly all around. He'll also sometimes stomp and have a big rock come down into his hands and throw that directly at you. One of the deadliest things, though, he's able to do is actually charge at you, because he takes up so much space on the screen, and you're unable to knock him back like you can with a lot of the other Robot Masters in Power Battle, so you have to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to your fight with Dustman. So, this is definitely one of the funner fights we get to do during this run. After completing the 6 Robot Masters, you then move on to the 2 Dr. Wily fights, and these vary depending upon what route you're doing. For this route, we're going to be facing off against the Yellow Devil. We're going to get out Dustman's ability that we actually had just gotten, and use this to help us defeat the Yellow Devil a little easier. In classic Yellow Devil fashion, he will break up into smaller pieces and fly across the screen. Also, when delivering attacks to him, you have to kind of wait a few seconds in order to deliver another attack, and if you're too quick on the draw, you may end up wasting one of your very valuable super arm attacks. He'll also throw a giant cube out that will bounce around the room and is one of the most annoying parts in his fight, and a couple of versions of Yellow Devil throughout this game have that annoying ability to throw that cube around. If you run out of super arm, finishing him off with your charged up Mega Buster and move on to the Dr. Wily fight. Now for the giant Dr. Wily tank fight, we're going to use rolling color. Move right up next to him and just keep using it. You'll be able to hit him a lot before he's able to move, and if you're really lucky, take out his complete first form before you run out. Once you've run out, though, you'll have to go to your Mega Buster. When he shoots out his electricity towards you, just stand still, as it'll land right in front of you and right behind you, as long as you don't move at all once he fires. Keep attacking him until he's defeated, and then for the second half of the fight, you then have to kind of jump around and fire at him while he's contained in his little UFO. The thing about this fight, with the countdown that's going on, if it runs out, which unfortunately does happen here for me, you just don't net yourself bonus points. Other than that, you still get the same ending either way. It's kind of a little extra bonus at the end. I don't think the ending is changed in any way, as I have played it a couple of times beating him and a couple of times without beating him. Either way, Dr. Wily's defeated, and you can enjoy the brief ending to Mega Man Power Battle. Now, the endings for each of the characters in Power Battle 1 remains the same no matter what route you take as well. So, completing it as each character, you'll see the same ending even if you chose to face off against the Mega Man 7 villains. Now, instead of going into Power Battle 1, we're going to go into Power Battle 2. You'll notice right away that you can actually select 4 characters for Power Battle 2, as well as you don't select what Robot Masters you want to fight. Instead, you select a route. Either looking for Dr. Wily, looking for Roll, or looking for the item converter thing. Either way, you'll have a different set of Robot Masters to battle with, and once you get into the selection screen, you actually get to select what Robot Master you want to fight. So you can fight them in any order. You could kind of do that in Power Battle 1 because it moves so slow on the random select screen, but you can definitely do it a lot easier because you can tell what Robot Master is in what spots when you do so in Power Battle 2. Taking Shadow Man on first, who actually is one of the cooler Robot Masters in Power Battle 2 because he can turn into the log. He's very ninja-esque. He has his throwing stars he'll throw at you. And there's a lot of times in Power Battle 2 where the Robot Masters become invulnerable. They have blocks a lot of time where they'll like kind of stick their arm up or they'll do something really quickly in order to deflect or block your attack, which is a little bit interesting for sure. One thing I will apologize is the capture when it comes to the game. I had to go through a lot of hoops to try to even get this game played. Unfortunately, it does a lot of flickering that the capture thing does not like to pick up. And unfortunately, the item got screen for Power Battle 2 flashes for some reason, and because of that, it kind of doesn't really pick up. So I do apologize for any inconvenience with that. I've struggled to get this video completed. Next up is Plant Man, who will use his flower shield, very similar, of course, to Woodman's leaf shield. Around him, he'll also throw it at you that you'll have to jump over. He likes to put little seeds on the ground that cause little plants to form and will actually fire projectiles out at you, so it's a good idea to charge up a little blast and take those out whenever he gets them set. He has a 3-shot spread shot that he'll like to do also, which is probably his weakest of his moves, because if you're far away, you can easily dodge. After defeating him, collect the items that drop, and you only have a limited time to pick up those items, so make sure you're diligent and grab them, especially the ones that are going to increase your health that little bit. So you're pretty much getting the same amount of health back between fights as you did in Power 1, but unlike Power Battle 1, you actually have to pick them up. Third up, we're going to go against Gyro Man. You can see, of course, his rotating blade on his back, and he uses that to fly around the level quite successfully. He'll also use it, as you can see, as a shield to block his attacks, and then throw out his gyros, which can come at sometimes 2 at a time. They also will sometimes he'll jump in the air and throw them, and then they'll come landing down on top of you. So they can definitely get in the way. You'll always have to keep your eyes peeled while doing this. In fact, when it comes to Power Battle 2, I actually find this route probably the toughest of the 3. There's some really challenging Robot Masters, especially once we complete Gyro Man, we'll be moving on to Centaur Man, who definitely doesn't pull any punches. Centaur Man, my favorite from Mega Man 6, or at least one of my favorites from Mega Man 6. He has a shield. He'll also summon little Mets that will come flying down, riding on like helicopter blades to try to get in your way. The worst, though, is his charge can be very hard to detect and be able to get out of the way because it's so quickly. He'll also use arrows that he'll fire straight down, kind of diagonally downwards. And because of this, they actually cover quite a big distance. So if you miss time a little bit of your jump, you're going to have trouble getting away. He'll also pull out a sickle and try to attack you with that, dashing forward to deliver giant hits. If you're able to complete Centaur Man, this is the toughest fight probably in all of this route of the game. In fact, a lot of times when practicing, I would do Centaur Man first just to get him out of the way in order to kind of make the entire rest of the battles easier. Thankfully, we get a little bit of a break as we take on one of the easier Robot Masters in this route, Bubbleman. Thankfully, the order they kind of are in here allows me to kind of take a break here and recover a little bit of health, as long as I'm still careful on dodging a lot of the attacks from Bubbleman. You can see that he fires out multiple projectiles that will travel across the screen, which Thankfully, you can jump easily in between, and the farther he's off screen, the easier he is to deal with, because you'll have more time to be able to get out of the way of those projectiles. Also, sometimes he'll summon little crabs that will go up in floating bubbles that will get in the way in case you try to jump too much. He'll also kind of move across the screen quickly while swimming, so he can definitely cause some damage, but he's easier at least than the last fight we just dealt with. Now, due to the fact I'm pretty low on health going into Heat Man, I'm definitely going to use his weakness here. Pulling out the bubble lead and using this against Heat Man is very useful. When you hit an enemy for the first time with their weakness, it does a special cool animation. Also in Power Battle 2, that same animation that happens to the characters will consistently happen. As you can see, kind of like a water splash is on Heat Man's face whenever I knock him back with his weakness, while of course also dodging all the fire that he's still able to easily get out even though I'm hitting him with the bubble lead. But you can see it does a lot of damage, and I can still kind of keep an eye on him, stay away from him. Bubble lead will thankfully travel a good distance. Heat Man will also, with his big move, do a kind of a giant charge and then land, unleashing fireballs in both directions. So that's probably the deadliest of his moves in order to try to get out of the way of. Now for the mid-boss or mini-boss before Wiley is this giant rolling guy. You're going to use Centaur Arrow to really help you out. He takes up so much space, he can be almost impossible to try to dodge around. So the best thing is to keep hitting him with Centaur Arrow, timing it. Every 2 arrows or so you hit him, you'll usually knock him away from you. And because of this, you'll be able to kind of keep him on the opposite side. He'll also fire out fireballs in your direction and use his hair, his mohawk hair, as a blade to kind of roll along the ground. Now, if you run out of your Centaur arrows, or, as you've noticed throughout the game, we have Eddie appear, or Flip Top appear sometimes, to give us an item. Sometimes the item is Invincibility. Now, this only happens with Proto Man and with Duo. It's a little bit different with Bass and Megaman when it comes to Power Battle 2. But that Invincibility will last as long as you have the ability above you. As you saw, Beat kind of flew in, gave me Invincibility. During that time, unload on him as much as possible before that runs out and that you can start taking damage again. He's a pretty tough fight, definitely. Like I said, this route with Proto Man is one of the toughest in the game. Now for the giant Dr. Wily machine here, we're going to use Bubble Lead, which is his weakness. Now you have some flying contraptions that go back and forth during this fight. I know it's a little bit rough to see with the flashing, but if you're on ground level with these guys, you've seen them in typical Mega Man games, the shield guys that move back and forth that you can only hit from behind. But if you're ground level and don't jump up towards them, they're unable to actually make contact with you and deal damage. If you time your attacks exactly correct, you can kind of get Dr. Wily stuck in a little bit of a loop to keep doing damage to him without him being able to actually get his moves off. But it's pretty tough with Bubble Lead in this route. It's a lot easier with Slash Man's ability that we'll be doing later on in this run. Unlike in Power Battle 1, he does not have two forms here. He only has one form, and then he goes to the UFO stage, which starts off with him appearing, showing you the countdown timer, and then the countdown timer will begin and he'll start teleporting. Unlike with Power Battle 1, where he instantly went into the little UFO and started moving back and forth before you're able to kind of even figure out exactly what you're supposed to be doing. But just like before, it's kind of a bonus. If you're able to defeat him, it's good. If not, you're really only missing out, I think, on points. The ending of the game remains the same. But once he's defeated, you can sit back and enjoy Proto Man's ending to Power Battle 2. So there we have it. There is Proto Man's ending to Power Battle 2. We're now going to move back to Power Battle 1 and now play as Base. In this run, I figured I'd face off against the Megaman 3 through 6 bosses, as overall I find them a little bit more interesting than just fighting 7's bosses. And we're going to start off with good old Dustman. He's going to start off usually by trying to pull you towards him. He also has giant blocks of trash that he'll throw out that will break up as they get closer to you. They kind of break into little pieces. You have to watch out for those. Overall, really easy fight to kind of start us off here. He's the same level as Crash Man from the Power Battle 1 we did with Megaman, but unfortunately the vents don't remain open during his battle. Jump right into the next level and face off with Gyro Man, who we just fought in our run as Proto Man, but now we're going to have to fight him. And the fight actually is a bit different. It's not the same exact battle. Number one, he can't block our attacks like he was able to do in Power Battle 2. He likes to kind of hover above and then throw out one single gyro at a time, making this fight a breeze in comparison to the fight against him in Power Battle 2. Now, Magnet Man is one of the tougher fights during the initial part here of Base's run that we're doing. Magnet Man likes to jump in the middle. He'll do his magnet pull move in the center. You'll have to wait for it to stop so that you'll be able to deliver attack. Other times, he'll jump straight up in the air and cause magnets to go across to the top and then come crashing down. If he throws 4 of them out, they'll all go kind of set up and then come crashing down, or he can send out 4 at a time and they just all instantly crash down. The biggest thing he does, though, is he will clone himself, being on the left and right side, or being able to teleport, and consistently teleport from back and forth from the left and right side, and pull you towards him. The best way to kind of avoid him doing this is to jump up in the air. That way you'll be able to avoid him for the most part, and then as soon as he stops, be able to deliver those hits. Now next up we're going to battle Plant Man. Now this fight is very similar to the one we just dealt with him in Power Battle 2, where he's going to be using, of course, his flower shield around him to kind of launch at you in order to hit him. He'll use it a tad bit more, I think, in this. He does giant, exaggerated jumps, usually when he does this. And this will allow you to kind of usually just stand against the wall. He'll bounce off the wall above you and then kind of land behind you or to the left of you, and you'll be able to just kind of land in those hits. One thing in the game that's kind of cool is there's also a database mode, besides just the gameplay mode of going to the arcade mode. There's a database mode that includes profiles for all the robot masters and all the main characters like Dr. Light, Dr. Wiley, Roll, and such. So that's another little cool aspect to check out if you ever decide to check out Rockman Power and Battle. And it's a good handheld conversion of Power Battle 1 and 2 for sure. Now, this fight against Gemini Man is one of the toughest in order to kind of avoid him. What I like to do is when he's doing these jumps around and coming at me, I'll charge up and deliver a hit whenever I possibly can. But this is the easy part of the fight. The second kind of part right after that is he'll kind of split himself in two, go to the left and right side, and fire a dual shot that will then kind of like meet in the middle. The problem here is it's rough to kind of judge when to deliver an attack to him that actually do damage. So as you'll see, sometimes it looks like I deliver a full hit to him, but I end up like kind of just going through him with my blast. And when he's firing not only those little projectiles, but the laser beams are consistently bouncing off the walls. There's a lot going on during the course of this fight. The sixth and final Robot Master for this will be Napalm Man, my favorite from Mega Man 5. He not only will roll back and forth, and he does so in a way that can be a little bit difficult to kind of judge and jump over. He has a lot of missiles. Not only does he have straight missiles that he'll fire out that come straight towards you, he also has his napalm bombs that will bounce along the ground and explode as well that you're going to have to avoid. He also can jump quite well, so you'll be able to have to kind of get away from him when he does these jumps, wait for him to land. He'll also, as you see at the very end there, use kind of a missile barrage that will come out of his shoulders and usually go in like an arcing pattern. So if you're really close to him, they'll go right up in the air and just land right beside you. But that's only going to happen if you're standing like directly next to him when he ends up unleashing the move. Now, the battle against the Yellow Devil is a little bit different than the one we battled in the Mega Man 1 and 2 run. We're going to be using Gyro Man's gyro attack in order to attack him, but once you get a little bit into the fight, he ends up splitting himself in two. He can still kind of move around very easily, he has projectiles, and he can also do his kind of split into balls and kind of move and teleport that way. After delivering enough hits to one form, he'll switch with the other one until you're able to fully drain the rest of his health, and then he'll form back into the big giant Yellow Devil. At this point, we've run out of the Gyro Man's attack, so we're just going to have to do full charged up jump shots in order to finish him off and move on to Dr. Wiley. Now for this battle, we're going to get out his weakness, which happens to be the Dust Crasher. Now, unlike with Cutman, it's a little bit harder to kind of consistently keep hitting him, but we can still jump in the air and deliver these before he's able to really kind of even get going during the course of this fight. He fires out his fist in order to try to hit you. They'll kind of go as far as you are, but with base, you can jump off the walls very easily, and do so, you can jump over his fist and cause it to miss. When it gets to his second form, he takes up a ton of space. You have to be really quick on trying to deliver as many hits as possible to drain that second form, because he just moves, and since he's so huge, he'll most of the time just run into you, causing a lot of damage. So if you're low on health, that part can be very tricky. Now, just like we've done in the other ones, we have to battle these little UFO mini-form, but once that's taken care of, we get to enjoy the ending to Base's run of Mega Man Power Battle 1. After that run, we have one more run that we're going to be completing during this video, and that is playing as Duo, who is not playable in Mega Man Power Battle 1. And Duo works pretty well. He's a pretty big character, but they do a good job of just kind of like shrinking him down to kind of fit. And he uses his giant fist to attack enemies, but it still works basically the same as any of the other main characters. You'll charge it up in order to deliver hits. Now, we're going to be playing the Search for Roll route during the course of this second playthrough of Mega Man Power Battle 2, and we're going to be using Duo to use these big, giant, charged fist attacks in order to hit Cutman. Just like in Power Battle 1, our job is to kind of keep away from him. If he gets close with his little jumps, we can just knock him back. A lot of times, you can hit Cutman when he's off-screen very easily, making this one of the best and easiest fights throughout the course of this route. Now, next up is Stone Man, who in some ways is similar to Guts Man, just being a big, hawking guy. He can deflect your shots, as well as he has a few moves, including he'll jump onto the ground by charging all the way across the screen towards you, crash landing into a heap of mess, then reforming himself and delivering an attack. He also has a giant stone fist that he can summon from the sand below that'll kind of creep out and try to grab a hold of you. He can also charge around the screen by grabbing a big giant rock and swinging it like a big column or log, and he'll rotate doing this, and it can be a little bit tough sometimes to dodge that. When he does summon the giant column, though, he'll summon it from the ground, so it can be a little bit tricky to dodge out of the way of it because you're not expecting him to do it. He'll kind of pull it out and kind of hit you with it, and then he'll grab it and start doing his rotation with it. Next up, one of my personal favorites from Mega Man 7, we have Shade Man, who of course had the kind of Easter egg to Ghost and Goblins in his level back in Mega Man 7 if you held the right buttons before entering it. Now, for his like echolocation-like move, when he's doing this, you can easily jump in between these attacks and keep firing full charge to blast to the left or right, wherever side of the screen he's on, and keep hitting him. In fact, you can see I've done over half his damage and he hasn't really done anything else. He can also fly around the level, swoop down onto you, and grab a hold of you, biting into your neck and taking away a bit of health that way. Just like with Proto Man, we can sometimes get Flip Top to show up by grabbing certain select items, and Flip Top will grant us invulnerability for a period of time after Beat kind of flies on the screen to give us that. So that helps us out at the end during this fight, but either way, Shade Man is not too rough of a battle. The locations of Dr. Wiley, the item, and Roll in the Mega Man Power Battle 2 routes is random each time you play, so you're never sure what level you end up completing. Does Roll or Dr. Wiley's doppelganger or whatever end up showing up? Next up from Mega Man 1 is Elec Man, who of course is one of the tougher fights from that game just because of how much damage he deals. But his electric shots during this, he'll either jump straight up into the air and fire them straight out. When he does this, he'll fire two shots out. One will go straight usually, or sometimes he may actually fire it diagonally down at you, so you always have to be a little bit careful when it comes to that. If you're able to get him to kind of stay on the opposite side of the screen and he's doing his jump backs and doing his lightning strikes, you should be able to just barely be able to time it so that you're going to be able to deliver those full charged up shots every time he lands and keep him away from you. The farther he's away from you, and as long as you're able to make some kind of contact, you can make this fight pretty easy. He's only really a huge challenge when he kind of gets in close to you and tries to attack you that way. Next up we have Dive Man, who definitely has a few cool moves at his disposal. He can summon mines that'll kind of float right around him that if you get close they're going to blow up. He also likes to kind of rotate and dive towards you, and early on in the fight you're actually able to knock him back from this, but as the fight progresses you'll no longer be able to knock him back. You'll still do damage, but you'll have to try to avoid him by jumping over him. He likes to stay in close a lot, so your goal is to kind of get his health down, because during the first part, he moves around a lot more. The second part of the fight, he'll start doing his dive underneath the ground. After a little bit of time, he'll come back up wherever you're currently at. So you can kind of get out of the way real fast when you see this, deliver a full charged up shot, he'll jump in the air, and when he lands you can get off another shot. Maybe not a full charged up one, but another quick shot doing a good amount of damage to him. Once you're at the second half of the fight, I actually find it a lot easier than the first part. The 6th Robot Master we're battling is by far the hardest during the course of this route, even harder I think than the bosses in Wily's castle during this. Slash Man is deadly. He will turn into a kind of ball of fury and fly towards you. Early on you can knock him out of this, but later on you're not going to be able to. He'll jump on the walls and then come crashing down on you, which can be hard to see, especially when the screen is too far left or right and he's off screen. You gotta be really prepared to be able to judge when he's gonna start flying in and try to attack you. He also will summon those vials of like material, there's slime, that will land on top of your head, and if it does so, you're unable to attack or really jump either. So he'll come trying to land and crash down on top of your head, or at least attempt to when you have that slime on your head, so it's best to avoid those jars at all costs. If you're able to survive the battle against Slash Man, we then get to move on to our fight against the Yellow Devil. At the beginning of the fight against the Yellow Devil, start off by immediately switching to Elec Man's move, and then hit him as soon as possible to do his weakness attack, knocking him away from you. He likes to use his cube that he'll bounce all around the room, which is the most annoying part of this entire fight. Keep timing your electrical hits to him until he ends up eventually summoning Eddie during this fight. You're able to collect the items and get Beat's ability. During this, of course, since you can't use Elec Man's move, use your full charged up shots in order to deliver hits to the Yellow Devil. He'll still sometimes go into his multiple ball form and fly across the screen, and these can be hard to dodge, but since we're invincible at this moment, we're able to avoid all the hits easily. This fight will either be long or short depending upon how much time he uses the teleport around. He'll also use a giant laser beam, especially later in the fight, that'll go around the ground just around him. So if you're able to get out of the way of this and actually dodge out of it, and stay as far away from him as possible. You should be able to deliver the last few hits you need to, and move on to the final boss of this route, which thankfully is a lot easier than Yellow Devil or Slash Man. Against Dr. Wily here, we're going to use Slash Man's move. Immediately jump towards Dr. Wily and hit him with Slash Claw. Doing so will cause the weakness animation. Then wait a second and then immediately jump towards him and attack again. Keep repeating the pattern until, well, all his health is gone. Now, if you time it or mistime it just a little bit off, you will end up allowing Dr. Wily to get attacks off, which can be annoying. And since we don't have a lot of health going into this fight, we want to make sure that we avoid that at all costs. Once we deliver that last hit to Dr. Wily, he goes to his UFO form that we just have to finish off. I recommend switching off of Slash Claw as it's a little bit easier just to defeat Dr. Wily with duos like normal full charged up attack. After the first two full charged up attacks to the UFO, you'll actually get a chance to hit a secondary hit on him. For some reason he won't instantly get knocked back from it, so you can kind of use this to your advantage and hit 2 hits, but even then sometimes it's a little bit difficult to do. If you're able to deliver 5 full charged up shots to Dr. Wily in this little UFO form, you'll defeat him, get some extra bonus points, and then you get to sit back and enjoy Duo's ending to Mega Man Power Battle 2. After enjoying that ending, of course, we get to see our high score racked up and all that stuff along the leaderboard if you want to. You can also, at this point, check out the database or anything else you would like to. Now, that's all the battles I'm going to do throughout this playthrough, so there's a few more things I didn't show. There's actually a battle against the Mecha Dragon if you end up going through the final route of Power Battle 2, which is kind of cool, but it wasn't worth replaying the entire game again to see it. But anyway, guys, that will wrap up this episode of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving me a thumbs up or commenting down below. I apologize for the delay with this video. I apologize for the problems with this video. I hope it was at least somewhat entertaining, especially going after a very obscure Mega Man title. I had never done a Neo Geo Pocket Color game prior to this for a video, so it was a lot of new challenges, a lot of issues with the video capturing and with the sound and with just tons and tons of issues. A lot of my best playthroughs didn't even make it because of the various issues that I ended up running into. So I apologize. I know the gameplay is not perfect. I know there's issues with the flashing that didn't pick up the flickering sprites, all that stuff. Trust me, it drove me nuts. I've been pulling my hair out for a week about this video. But this is what I've run out of Mega Man games in a lot of the traditional senses. I'm starting to run out of Mega Man games. But don't worry, 2 more March of Mega Man 9 videos will be coming out before March of Mega Man is over with. And hopefully from that point on, everything will kind of be a little bit of smooth sailings for a little bit as far as Play It Through videos go. Check out last week's video I did for Mega Man Extreme 2 for the Game Boy Color. Thank you all the members of my Patreon. You have no idea, this does keep this channel going. That bit of support, that monthly support, you can help out as well. Click the link. As little as $1 a month goes a long way to keeping me being able to do what I'm doing on a full-time basis. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, despite its issues and all that good stuff. And thank you. Thank you for everything.